Here we are, episode 43, all about telling me more how to get the most out of the people you're involved with and interacting with, how to allow them the time and space to really open up. Before that, we're going to get into our moment of gratitude. Every week, I focus and start my show off with a moment of gratitude to thank a person or a place or a thing I did as a moment in time to hunt the good stuff and take that time out of my day, out of my week to really focus on positive things, to fight away the negative comparison that we as humans, and myself included, often find ourselves seeing the world through that lens. So this week, a moment of gratitude goes towards my parents. Last couple of weeks here on the farm, I've had my daughter home for the summer, and my mom especially has been around a lot supporting me, and she's always supported me as a father, and I've been a single father most of my journey as a parent. And so the amount of support she gives me and the amount of love that she shows to my daughter, and same with my dad. So really, it's more my gratitude is how they are as grandparents, really not as parents as much. I'm grateful there too, but really, it's this focus right now is how they are as grandparents because my daughter absolutely adores them. That's what I'm grateful for. That they have a great relationship, similar to the amazing relationship I had with my grandparents growing up, especially my summers on the farm up north. So that's what I'm grateful for this week. Second order of business, let's pay the bills. Podcasts, that's where I've really been pushing lately. And I'm getting some speaking gigs and book sales are going and all the things are happening. And in order to promote more book sales and more opportunities to speak, podcasts are a great way to do it. I love being on podcast. So for those of you out there, if there's other podcasts that you listen to that you think I'd be a great guest on, let me know. Or if there's people that you want to introduce me to and think I might be a good guest on a podcast, let me know. Make an introduction. I'd really appreciate that so I can get in to other circles of influence and share the good word of words with other audiences. So I'm looking forward to that. All right, let's get in the meat and potatoes. This week I want to talk about tell me more. Last week I started writing a top 10 list of my favorite phrases by word count. And I started with tell me more because of the impact it's had recently. So I have a favorite phrase that's one word and a favorite phrase that's two words, and so on and so forth. We're going to get into this today. Tell me more. My favorite three-word phrase. The challenge we have often, and we, I mean, the collective we, and I'll speak as me too also, I'll say things like, I don't know. I'm not sure what they were thinking. I don't know what they were doing. And it's all bullshit excuses, right? Bullshit excuses and or blaming others because I'll take ownership here, because I didn't investigate. I didn't ask good questions. I didn't understand the severity of the situation or what was going on. I didn't ask the right questions to receive the right information in order to then get the best data, right? Because life is about making data driven decisions. And in order to extract data from people, asking good questions is the best way of doing that. And this is what a normal conversation will sound like. A lot of people will go into it and say, hey, are you scared? Are you worried? Are you feeling good? Did you have a good day? And those are all very bullshit closed ended questions, and it doesn't get us any closer to the facts. What do we end up doing is projecting our ideals. I find this with my daughter too. I find myself having conversations with her and say, hey, did you have a good time? And now it's yes or no. Like that doesn't get us anywhere. Versus asking open ended questions. How are you feeling? What are your thoughts on this? And then what happens is humans will answer the initial question and then we move on to the next thing. Or we might dive deeper or dig deeper and we want to ask why and this and that. And then people will often give us a little answer and they choose not to let us into that next part. And so the phrase tell me more, and I learned this in EOS probably about a year ago, is a very powerful phrase. What ends up happening is people share their initial thoughts when you ask that open-ended question, right? What are your thoughts on this? How are you feeling about that? What happened? And they'll tell that initial piece, right? The tip of the iceberg. And then when you say tell me more, you're giving them time and space and permission to dig deeper. You're not demanding it. You're not even requesting it. You're not even asking for it. You're giving time and space. And it shows that you, as the listener, you're curious. You genuinely want to know more. You're not accepting the initial answer. So, for example, I talk often about my daughter on the show because she's the person I'm closest with in the world. And so, for example, if we were at the park, this was a week and a half ago, and she said, Dad, I want to leave. The other kids don't want to play with me. I said, okay. And they're all about her size, give or take a year or two. And then, of course, I go into dad mode. Okay, I didn't want to leave the park. What are we doing? And then she opens up a little bit. And then I caught myself and I said, hey, tell me more. She says, I want to play this game. And they don't want to play that game. Da, da, da. And now she just opened up. It went from, I want to leave the park to the kids aren't playing with me to, oh, there's some depth here. And then she rattled it off, and I said, "Okay, so now I have the whole story. Okay, so the kids are playing a game, yep, and they don't want to play the game that you want to play right now, right? Okay, so what are our choices here? Let's talk this through. And can you go play their game? Do you know the rules of their game? It was freeze tag or whatever. They were playing a game, whatever. She wanted to play freeze tag, and the other kids wanted to play a game where you go to jail. It's basically the same thing, right? Whatever. It's and her was a big deal. And yet, when I said, "Tell me more," she got it all out of her system through that osmosis. She came to the conclusion herself, like, okay, yeah, I'd rather be here and play than just throw my hands up and give up and just run away. And I saw this on a video a couple weeks back, and it was a woman on there. She said, if you want to know what a man is thinking, ask him a question, let him answer, and then do nothing for 30 seconds. And in that time, in that time, a man will open up because he feels like he can be heard. And this, I'm quoting what the woman said about men in particular, and about especially when it comes to women asking him questions. Right there, when men feel like when men feel they're getting defensive, or they feel like they're being berated, or whatever. Right, and this can go both ways with the sexes. I'm not going to get into that argument here. The idea, though, is that when you allow that 30 seconds, it allows the person to think through that initial answer, realize that they're in an environment that wants to hear, that wants to be vulnerable. The other person wants to be curious. And when you say, tell me more, and allow the time and allow the space, what ends up happening with men in particular is they rationalize really what's going on, and they get away from that reaction mode, and they get into a little reflection, even real time reflection, right? And then they respond to the question. They respond to the stimulus. They respond to the situation versus reacting to the person, or fight, flight, or freeze, and reacting to the perceived threat or danger. And when you use phrases like "tell me more," even as a person, the more I even say this now in this, I find myself open and I'm curious and I'm vulnerable versus asking questions that almost like demand answers. And I know this is to be true, because as I've spent time with people and they've come back to me and they said, "Hey, you said that one time, and tell me more." And I found myself relieved. I felt myself at ease. I felt myself wanting to share more, digging deeper than I had originally thought. And for me, I'm one of those people, I love sharing my life with others. That's why we're here every week. I sit here and open up myself to the world, and anybody with internet connection can hear some of my deepest, innermost thoughts. And when I've heard it in the past, when people say, "Tell me more," it validates everything I've already said. So, oh, there's more here. They want to know more. My uncle Bill, who was a mentor of mine, he's since passed. He used to sit and we would have long conversations, and he was 50 years my senior, probably 40, at least 40 years my senior, if not 50. Really smart, successful businessman. And I remember when I first started in business, I would ask him all these questions, and he had a slow, methodical answer and a way of going about it. And I'd go to dinner with him, and I feel I'd ask three questions, and it would take up all that time and space. And I remember when I became a business owner, he did a lot of the question asking, and I didn't ask as many questions, because he would ask me questions. What's going on with this? And I was so quick to give that answer to show him that I was smart and I knew what the hell I was talking about. And he would sit there and go, "What else?" That was his thing. It was, "What else?" And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean what else? I just gave the best answer available." And then I would start talking more, and then I realized the flaw in logic potentially in that first answer. Or I found data that would qualify or disqualify that first answer. And often I would find myself like, "Okay, hold on. Have we really," like, he asked a question that had a surface answer, and yet there was depth to it for me to consider. And he would sit like this, and he would sit in his chair. And if I would say something, he would give me a chuckle, always a quick chuckle. And that was it. There was no other interruption. He allowed that time and space for that real time reflection. I talk about in life, it's about reflection, awareness, and regulation. And I found myself wanting to go to dinner with him and spend time with him, and I wanted all the answers to the test. And the more time I spent with him, the more time I realized the answers were within me. It was in asking great questions and allowing that time and space for me to come to those conclusions. My ask of you this week is simple. Look at the conversations you have with your employees, with your coworkers. Look at the conversations you have with your kids or your significant other. Find those times, because time is something we all have. Find the time to get meaningful learning. My argument is simple. When you invest that 30 seconds, when you take the time with your spouse when they get home from work and say, hey, tell me more, and you allow them that time to open up, you'll potentially solve issues that have been plaguing you. You'll potentially unravel the onion that is that person you're connecting with. You'll allow that person to really open up. You'll show that person you're curious. You'll create an environment where the other person will want to be vulnerable because you've allowed them the time and the space to open up. So, the challenge this week, it's a very short lesson this week. The challenge is simple. When working with people, get rid of, start, stop, continue. Stop letting bullshit excuses like, I don't know what they were thinking, I don't know what they were doing, I'm not sure, I'm this, I'm that. Get yourself out of it. Go to the source. Ask great, open ended questions. If you say, I don't know what they were feeling, go to them. How are you feeling? What were you feeling when this happened? At work, oh, I don't know what they were thinking. Okay, hey, what was your thought process here? Right? Let them answer. And then challenge yourself one time to say, tell me more, and give it at least 30 seconds. Make the discomfort palpable. Show them that you are curious. Create an environment of vulnerability, and you'll be amazed by the results. When you do that, you'll be able to regulate yourself in real time and allow the space and time for them to reflect, for them to become aware, and for them to regulate themselves potentially by giving you an answer that is a response versus a reaction. That's what we're ultimately seeking here. The opportunity we have here with our words is to create environments in which we find the response versus the reaction, especially in moments of conflict. I love conflict because on the other side of conflict is resolution. The goal is to have conflict that is productive. I was very close to say healthy. Healthy is subjective. Productive is measurable, it's objective by nature. When you have productive conversations, you can have outcomes that benefit both parties, no different than my daughter at the park. So I ask you this week, ask the question, and I ask the question, I ask you this week to use the statement, my new favorite 3 word statement, tell me more, when you truly want to be curious and create those moments of vulnerability with those around you. As always, get out there, do the fucking thing, tell the fucking world, and show the fuck up. We'll see you next week.